Hello, everyone, and welcome to the European Voices podcast. I'm Vedrana Vujović from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and in the upcoming episodes, I will be your host. The idea of this podcast is to show the stories of young, successful activists in civil society and in politics who come from countries from the Europe, from Western Balkans, and the countries of the European Union. This project is implemented with the IRI Generation Democracy Network and Europe region with the support of FNED. I'm happy to welcome our new guest for these episodes from my home country, my friend Malik Sakić. Malik, welcome and thank you for being our guest in this podcast.
Hello, Vedrana, and thank you for calling me. And it's really great to be on the other side of like not asking questions, having the ability to answer them.
At the beginning, can you tell us like a few words about your country? About Bosnia and Herzegovina and your hometown, Tuzla.
It's always kind of hard to summarize it in I would say a few words or a few sentences, but I will try. From my personal point of view, Bosnia and Herzegovina is like look-wise one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I love the people, love the culture, love the atmosphere, and everything that describes my people. My hometown, Tuzla, is really known as a really friendly environment, as a city that accepts everyone, and as a city where everyone who comes feel welcomed, and that is something that we are really proud about. But also I can connect that in a way to the whole country. So if I would have to summarize a country to someone who's not from Bosnia, it would probably be that we do our best to be the best hosts ever.
Definitely. I can agree with that. That's very interesting because Bosnia is a very specific country, but we are also welcoming to not just our neighbors, but also to the people, especially young people from the rest of the world. But this whole podcast idea is about activism, and you're an activist from Tuzla. You are engaged not just into the politics, but also into the civil society. Tell us something about that and about your background in general, about your education and what you do for a living.
Yeah. When it comes to activism and my whole, I would say, road to the civil sector, I think it kind of started in a way in primary school. It wasn't like anything official or something, but I just remember like a group of people, like a group of few kids collecting books for our library because we were not happy of the amount of books that we actually had in the library, and like we were doing our best. And at that point we just thought of it that like it's something cool, didn't actually realize it was activism or like young people actually doing something. And then in later in high school, I got involved with like different organizations in my hometown. For a really huge period of my life, it actually became my job and everything that I was doing. And also in that period, because I realized, I think for a young person, it's not just enough to be in the civil sector. You also have to kind of be involved in political sphere. You don't have to be a member of the party or anything, but you have to be kind of in a way interested in politics, in a way to talk to decision makers and have the ability for your voice to be heard. And I got engaged in politics, I think in 2016, 17, I don't remember at this point. I'm much more longer involved in the civil sector. For the past few years, I was involved with the program in Bosnia and Herzegovina called CAT Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is an organization called Citizens Against Terrorism. And we kind of, in a way, amplified the digital voice of young activists in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and like in the whole region. In a short period of time, became one of the most visible youth projects in the Western Balkans. And when it comes to my political background, I don't have a lot of it, to be honest. But I was always Actually, this year was the first time that I was actually involved in the elections in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But I always found a way to kind of be there, to write policies, to work with a bit older, experienced people in politics in Bosnia and Herzegovina, to try to represent the voices of young people as much as possible. Had a lot of opportunities to actually be engaged with important ambassadors in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, for the past 4 years, I've been a member and also the former president of European Democracy Youth Network, which is one of the biggest organizations of young people in Europe. And you should know you're also a member of it as of recently.
Yes, recently become a member.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of it when it comes to the background. I don't want to take too much of the time just introducing the background, because I believe questions will be formed and in a way for me to answer it.
Yeah, you mentioned actually everything from the perspective of that part of politics, part of the civil activism, also on a global, you're also Generation Democracy member and also former EDIM president, actually EDIM Bosnian ambassador. And I'm really happy and proud to be part of these such amazing networks of young people, not just in Bosnia and the region, but also in whole Europe. What kind of experience can you actually tell us? What there is like the difference between European network as a Eden and also your kind of activism in Tuzla or with that CAT program? Is there like something different between being part of the like larger network and their kind of projects? But also if you can compare these two, because it's very interesting, because Eden network is a network of the people from politics and from civil society that you can work together. But how about that kind of work in Bosnia? How that works, if you can compare in a few sentences?
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to the connection of like smaller organizations, smaller network, and like global, such as also Generation Democracy, when it comes to the background of it is kind of the same. Like all of the organizations function in a same way and like same set of I would say principles and rules. But what is a good thing? You're able to learn from both. You're able to learn from like a smaller scale organization, from like smaller projects to like really big ones that are like global, that are like on like a regional European, doesn't matter what kind of level. The most important thing I would say that I learned is the ability to listen to others. When we kind of get into activism, when we kind of get into any kind of political sphere, we somehow think that we are the smartest person in the room, and we just came here to organize everything. You guys have no idea how to do stuff. We are here. We know, and that is actually a good kind of energy. And that is something that's like that you really need to in order to progress in these kind of organizations and like in this kind of environment. But also throughout the process, you learn the ability to listen to others, to listen to the people who are coming from different specters, from different organizations, from different political views, from like, I don't know, when it comes to Eden, we have people from like 23 countries.
It's amazing, really, especially when it comes to Europe, to get a whole that kind of people from different 23 countries in one place. It's a huge.
Yeah, and a lot of times I've said that like this, being a part of something like this is actually a privilege, because not a lot of people our age have the opportunity to just talk to someone who's in a way like different, who comes from like a different background. And the realization that like just after talks, like after coffee breaks, after lunches, dinners, doesn't matter, you can learn a lot from those people. You can have all of the amazing examples that they have done in their own countries. You can learn how they failed in order to do something, and you can improve it in in your own country, and that is something that I consider like the biggest benefit of these type of organizations. And also I think generally activism, volunteering, and doing anything in this manner helps you develop, and also in your like professional career. Like tomorrow when you come to your job, your work, doesn't matter, to your office, you have learned the background of doing something. You have a lot more experience than like someone who just went to college and like finished and is I don't know, for example, finding a job. And I remember that in a lot of times when I was applying for something, actually the stuff that gave me a plus, the stuff that actually got me the job, were the stuff that I was doing in the background, were the stuff that I was doing in my free time. And I think
as your informal education, actually, not formal part, but your informal education. That's really amazing.
Yeah, because for example, I truly think that organization, for example, like Eden, is in a way functioning as a big company is in anywhere in Europe, and like anywhere in the world. Like when you look at the hierarchy, when you look at the way you do projects, where you look at the way how you communicate, create teams, doesn't matter, anything, it will benefit you in like all kinds of way that you will maybe realize 3, 4, 5 years later. I've like came to situations this year when I had to like deal with something, and I realized that I actually learned that like 4 years ago, but like without even realizing. And I would try to encourage everyone when it comes to it. Also, I think it doesn't matter what age you actually are. You can always somehow be engaged in activism and in anything that is happening around you, because that can benefit you a lot, and you can at the end of the road you can maybe just gain a friend. Like you don't have to change the world overnight, or like in there. And you know, like you come from Bosnia as same as I, and we kind of have a culture of complaining but not doing anything.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think when you you feel better at the realization that you actually tried something, even if it failed, even if you hadn't done it, like even but like you feel better that at least you tried, and now you know what is not working. Maybe like this will help you tomorrow to realize, okay, maybe okay, I've done this, not so good, maybe I'll try to do something else tomorrow. Like maybe I'll try to inspire someone else. Maybe you will find I don't know, a way to consult someone who has like much more better opportunities to do something than you actually have, but you can just be networking with them and like create your own ideas through someone else and like help them be developed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because I'm also young and I'm engaged into the politics, but also into these regional or global networks, and these kind of cooperation and the networking between, not just between countries, but all between young people from same country or from between countries. It's very important to engage people and cooperate with young people from different parts of the world. And that is the huge benefit of being active young person in Bosnia, in Europe, because we have that huge like networks like Generation Democracy, and like a regional network like Eden. This is like a very great way to have a bunch of young people with the same or similar ideas, with the same values, but also they have the same or similar problems, everyday problems, because no matter where they come from, we young people have definitely lots of same issues on everyday basis. And I really found it very important to have that kind of cooperation, communication, to be honest with each other, because after that, even to share that not so successful stories, because we can learn from something. We can learn something from their stories, also from our stories, if we decided to share it. And I think that kind of thing is actually very, very important, especially in the 21st century, to use these kind of channels of communication to not just be friends on Facebook or follow us on Instagram, but also to have the opportunity to really meet people from different parts of the world, different parts of the region, and to have that kind of informal education. To be honest, for me, informal education is probably most important, much more important compared to the formal education. Of course, you need formal education for many stuff in your life, to have like a better work, a better job, to have like an academic career. But that kind of informal education, I think, is very important, especially for the young people from the Western Balkans as like a post-conflict society, and I can say probably from the Eastern Europe, because they have that kind right now, unfortunately, that kind of impact of the conflict zone are right now. Ukraine is number one, but definitely that kind of influence of the conflict influence, we can feel it in Bosnia, but especially in the Eastern Europe. But let's talk just a little bit about young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. From your perspective, you're part of the active here, you were or you are now active here in the civil society, but also in politics. You were running also. Can you tell me, is there enough space for young people here from your perspective, and is there perspective in general for young people to be part of the change making and the decision making process?
The thing is, as for everything, you have to fight for it. I remember the day I decided to be a bit more active and try to be involved in politics and everything. I thought that is something that should be given to us, just because, okay, I came here, I'm young and I'm smart and I want to do something. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And somewhere maybe will, but from my experience, you actually have to fight for it. You have to work for it. You have to prove yourself, because if you are a young person anywhere, and it doesn't matter if it's like a political organization, doesn't matter if it's like a big company where you work for, you cannot overnight become like the CEO of the company or something. You have to make something. You have to have people realize that you actually can bring something new, bring something that is important, bring new energy. And I think there is space for young people, but a lot of them are not using it. A lot of, for example, parties in Bosnia and Herzegovina actually have the opportunities for young people, have a way for them to benefit later, or I don't know, but like, you have to be the one who like wakes up this morning, decides, okay, I want to do this, and then like you either go, or like you apply somewhere, or like you just try to contact someone, you try to get into talking about that. But the thing that is really important, even when you get into the position of actually doing something, you cannot forget like your fellow young colleagues and everyone who's young in Bosnia and Herzegovina. You still have to, in a way, fight for them. You have to empathize your voice for their rights and everything. I don't know. For example, in last year, with my youth wing and the party, we decided, like, one day we had a meeting and we decided, okay, from this year's elections, we want to do something that will help all the young people in our organization, and that will help all the young people in a way who try to join us, and anywhere from this point, like, to the point in the next 10 years. So we made a joint statement that, like, I don't know who does. Everyone who will be listening this knows how a political system in Bosnia and Herzegovina works. You have lists, and like, with a higher position on a list, that gives you higher opportunity to
get in, yes,
to get into the government or something. So we made a joint statement that we want and we need in the first three positions a young, someone who's by law young in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and
under 35.
Yeah. And okay, we need them in like 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. And also, when it comes to like parliaments, we need them in top 5, and we need 30% in top 10.
Yeah.
And when we gave the paper, I'll be honest, we didn't expect much, and we were just okay. We want to try to do something, and it was voted unanimously in like the meeting of the presidency of the party in like the period of a month, and now we have a lot of young people who are actually elected in the government, in like the cantonal governments, in federation, doesn't matter, who actually got there because someone decided to fight for the voice and the energy of young people. Maybe if it was someone else deciding in the process, if it was someone else from like different city, I don't know, who creates a list, you'll be like, yeah, I don't want this young person in like the number 3 or number 2. He can go to 27, doesn't matter. But like now you have to do it by like some kind of a law or like rule in the party, and those are like the little stuff that you can do, but that can actually benefit a lot later. And now the goal is to try to transfer it to a bunch of different parties in Bosnia and Herzegovina for everyone to have this opportunity. And I think we'll be able to do it, but like we just have to communicate as much as possible.
Yeah, you need to push it, because every young person, if being elected like myself, you have huge responsibility, not just to the like citizens in general. That's like a mandatory, and that's like, of course, I have responsibility to my community, to my voters. But you have, as a young person, huge responsibility to other young people outside that we're expecting something from you, that you can create the better position for young people, not just in political parties, but also into the position in general, like in the governance, in decision-making process. Because lots of people, especially in Bosnia, I completely agree with you, they want to be active, but they don't want to be part of political parties. So there is we can create like more space for them to be active in the local communities, in their like cities, municipalities, in the entities, because Bosnian political system is so complicated. But I also agree with you that there is enough. They can be right now. There is enough space, but there can be more space. You just need to create like your team of people, of young people, to push it and to never give up, definitely. Because if you decide to give up, there will be no activism. It's just like some kind of campaign.
I'm sorry, I just have to mention one example that is really important. I'll try as short as possible. There was this conference when we were talking about what we think are the problems of young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and like what should be changed, what should we be working on. And I remember someone in the audience like standing up and saying like, how like what is the audacity that you have that you think you should be the voice of young people? Like, we actually need this and this, and I think that we need this. And I'm like, first, I'm also a young person myself, and I'm like just speaking from my own experience. But also, if you do not come and tell me exactly the thing you did right now, I have no idea what are your needs. Like, if I want to talk to you and you just say, yeah, bye, no, and you walk away, how do you expect anything to change? Like, if you didn't, as you did today, stood up, asked the questions, and like, which I truly respect. And like, that is also a way to actually do something, like come to a conference like this and just say your voice.
Okay. I have another question, because we were running our time, unfortunately, but I would like to. There will be definitely in the upcoming months lots of opportunity to speak about that, because we will definitely continue to work, not just as a generation democracy, but with the lots of different projects with the IRI and the NED. But just to wrap up this podcast, these episodes, what will be your advice to young people in the Balkans, in Bosnia, but also worldwide? What will be actually advice to our youth listeners?
Now I will come to the situation where like, what's the audacity that you have to think to talk to everyone and like tell them what they need to do? No, I'm joking. Just when you have a thought, when you have something that you think could be or would be right, doesn't matter. Try to stand up. Try to at least shout that thought. Try to talk about that with your friends on coffee, try to talk with your family, with anyone who's around, and that will in a way give you courage to actually start doing something around. And if you just like sit and complain and like wait for the things to somehow magically fall into place, they will never do, and that will never happen. And if you are not the one doing something, if you're not the one fighting, why should you expect someone else to do it for you?
Excellent. That's a really motivation message to not just to young people, but in general to our listeners, because there will be some not so young listeners. But definitely, we need to stand out. We need to be not just there for ourselves, but also to our friends, to our families, to our citizens, to our neighbors. And I think it's very important to be part of the community, but to be active part of the community. Even our community is small. If we are active, we can. It will become much bigger. Thank you, Malik. It was really a pleasure having you here as a guest. Be actually your host for today, because if anyone knows, Malik is, I can say, like a pioneer of podcast in Bosnia. That's like a very, very specific, unique thing, especially for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years.
I think also maybe 4 at this point.
4.
A lot of years have passed. We're not that young.
Yeah. Time flies, definitely. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Generation Democracy, IRI, and NET for supporting this project. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter as Generation Democracy. Subscribe on our channel for the more upcoming episodes.